is my honor to be able to introduce today's webinar, Building the Bench, Recruiting, Onboarding, and Retaining the Next Generation of Prevention Professionals. And we have an exceptional list of presenters today, and I am really excited to be able to introduce today's webinar. My name is Amber Jones, and I am the co-coordinator for the Southeast PTTC. I'm going to go ahead and start with our acknowledgement. The opinions expressed in today's presentation and presentation materials are the views of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official position of DHHS, SAMHSA, or the Southeast PTTC. If you're not familiar with the PTTC network, the Prevention Technology Transfer Centers, we are a network of centers across the United States and a little beyond that provide training and TA to the prevention workforce. And this map, it demonstrates our network, and we are the Southeast PTTC hosting today's webinar, and we are located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, housed at Wake Forest University School of Medicine, and led by co-directors, Drs. Wolfson and Wagner. So a little housekeeping before we get started. At the conclusion of today's webinar, we please ask that you will fill out a very brief evaluation form. This takes less than 3 minutes, and your feedback is really important to us. And in addition to that, it is through this feedback form evaluation that you'll have the opportunity to receive your certificate of attendance. You'll receive 90 minutes for attending today's webinar. After you fill out that evaluation, please pause and it'll take you to the external site, which is your certificate. We will be also sending today's materials, the PowerPoint, and posting the webinar on our YouTube page. So we'll send a post-webinar email that contains all that information. It will also contain the link for the evaluation form. So if you miss it, don't despair. You'll have the opportunity to get it in your email, and we'll also share it at the conclusion of today's webinar. We'll share it in the chat, and then we also have a slide that has a QR code if you prefer that method. And I believe it is now time and my honor to be able to introduce my mentor, colleague, and dear friend, Carlton Hall. It is all yours, Carlton.
Amber, thank you so very, very much. And thank you for the leadership that you provide to us in coordinating all of these things that we do with the Southeast PTTC. Thank you. Thank you to Angelica and to Chisholm, who is also a part of the team supporting and making sure that this happens. It is an honor to be with you guys and to partner and work with you all. I'm going to keep my remarks short. I'm so excited by the faces that I'm seeing and the names that I'm seeing across the screen, the number of friends that are joining us. This is going to be an exciting conversation. Today actually really marks the beginning of a conversation that we've been wanting to have at the Southeast PTTC for quite some time. Across our region, prevention professionals are really responding to a number of increasing complex challenges. Communities are facing evolving substance use trends, behavioral health concerns, workforce shortages, funding uncertainties, the list goes on and on. Yet, despite these challenges, one thing remains true, that the greatest asset in prevention has never been a program or a strategic plan or a logic model. The greatest asset has always been the people who are getting the job done. And that's really what this conversation today is truly going to be about. It's those that believe that we can actually make a difference in our society, which is represented by all of you who are here today. And so I thank you for that. That is why I truly believe that beginning this workforce development series that we are conducting at the Southeast PTTC could not start with a better topic than building the bench. Before we can strengthen systems, before we can influence policies, we must ensure we have a strong, prepared, supported, and inspired workforce to help lead that effort. And today's discussion is about more than just filling vacancies, right? It's about building careers. It's about cultivating leaders. It's about those that believe that we are doing this and we have a passionate mission that we are here to fulfill. And so one of the things that I love about this is that we know that this isn't built around kind of theoretical principles, kind of or frameworks. Um, Today's conversation is really built around experience. And so we've assembled a remarkable group of outstanding leaders, which will bring their unique perspectives to this conversation as we're here to discuss this. And so I am thrilled, beyond thrilled, to begin to introduce that esteemed panel to you today. And so first, we are honored to have and welcome Laura Edwards. Laura is the founder of LDE and Co., whose leadership in Kentucky really has helped. This is where we've met. Really helped to strengthen a statewide prevention system there. She was a significant part and contributor to that system there in Kentucky. The infrastructure was put forward with a thoughtful workforce development strategies. Laura understands what it takes to build sustainable systems that support professionals throughout their careers, and she'll share that valuable lesson and those valuable lessons from leading and helping to contribute to the leadership of that work at the state level. We're thrilled to have her. We are also pleased to welcome Stacey Pratt, who is another friend of ours from the great state of Tennessee. She is the executive director of the Tennessee Certification Board. Stacey brings a critical perspective on professional credentialing, workforce recruitment, certification pathways, and the ongoing effort to elevate prevention as a recognized profession. Her work reminds us that investing in prevention professionals and their development is investing in the future credibility and sustainability of the field that we all love. And finally, we're delighted to have Seyram Selase. Seyram is a great friend from the great state of Alabama as the executive director of one of Alabama's award-winning prevention organizations and coalitions, the Agency for Substance Use Prevention, or ASAP. Seyram represents what workforce development looks like at the ground level, where prevention really happens every day. He understands the realities of recruiting and onboarding, mentoring, and retaining talented staff while sustaining meaningful efforts towards community needs. He'll share his practical lessons from those front lines. So we are thrilled to have, and we're in for a great conversation. Oh my goodness, I'm seeing a bunch of friends here on the screen. It's great to see you all. This is not for us, this is for you. And so I'm inviting all of you to participate fully in the chat. Really, ask questions, challenge assumptions, challenge what it is that you hear. Bring your experience to bear, because what I'm sure about is that a lot of the things that we're going to learn most from today may not be from our panelists, but rather from your engagement and your offerings with respect to your experience as well. And so we're going to be monitoring the chat throughout this. We're going to be engaging with you. After our three presenters will offer their remarks, we're going to have an opportunity for Q&A and for ongoing discussion. And so be prepared with those questions at that time. And with that, I'm going to just now turn the mic over to my dear friend Laura from Kentucky to help start us off and provide for us kind of what her experience was from the state level. Laura, the floor is all yours.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're at. It's definitely morning for me over here in Kentucky, and I'm grateful to be here. As ironic as it is, I just got a message on my computer that I'm not sure what it's going to make me do. So I may have to leave and come right back. How fun is that? So give me just a second. I don't know what this is going to do. It literally just popped up as Carlton was introducing me.
Carlton, you're muted. It did look like she left for a minute.
Sorry about that, guys. Technical issues, but we're going to resolve them. If we could, Stacey, hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you if you're ready to go. We can go ahead and move on with your presentation and then bring Laura back in and she can come in with the state perspective after that.
Yeah.
Does that work?
I'm ready.
Fantastic.
So sorry about that.
Oh,
Laura, we're going to go on with Stacey and then we're going to bring you in after Stacey.
That is fine. I am terribly sorry.
You're great. You're great.
no
Stacey,
worries. So I am really happy to be here today. I'm also excited. I also have lots of friends in here. So I'm glad there's a good showing from Tennessee and other people who work with CCB. So I'm going to be talking about the field of prevention and workforce development through kind of that lens of certification and that process. So the first thing I wanted to do in introducing myself is just kind of tell you how I got here. A lot of people don't know substance use prevention is a profession. And I was in that boat. I was working as a forensic interviewer at a child advocacy center and at a community meeting. Some of you may know Stephanie Strutner through CADCA or other places, but she was mentoring the county I was working in to start a DFC coalition. And, you know, I heard her pitch of like, you know, the failure to prevent substance use causes impacts in our community. And those are what I was seeing in the child abuse field. And so I volunteered for 5 years with the coalition, developing that and getting it going before I even started working there. So after another 9 years in the coalition, I started working with the certification board and have really enjoyed kind of that bigger picture of prevention as a legitimate occupation and long-term careers for people. And I think the certified prevention specialist supports that. So what I'm going to be talking about for my section, first we're going to look at ICNRC, the International Certification and Reciprocity Consortium, about the Tennessee Certification Board, key aspects of the CPS, and how certification supports the workforce, and learning some strategies to support the credentialing process and our workforce through that. So as Carlton mentioned some of these, we have a need for this. We have a lot of staff turnover, there's staff burnout, the funding instability, and the need to find new ways and better ways to secure funding. There's growing expectations as we have, you know, more overdoses, more new drugs, emerging trends that we're seeing, you know, more pressure is being put on the field of prevention to know more about more. That also increases our need for evidence-based prevention because we want to make sure that what we're doing is being effective. So ICNRC, like I said, that's the International Certification and Reciprocity Consortium. They are the ones who set the standards. So they set standards not only for the field of prevention, but other substance use fields, addiction, recovery. There are states and other member boards across the world. So other countries, I think there are 49 states. Our military services have branches that are member boards of ICNRC. So this isn't just in the Southeast or in your state, you know, this is literally around the world. So we have the credentials that ICNRC provides, and they validate what we're doing. Make sure that the professionals working in our field are demonstrating competency, maintaining ethical practices, and also allowing for reciprocity for movement around the field. So between other states and countries' member boards. Tennessee Certification Board, we are the member board of ICNRC here in Tennessee. We offer 3 of their credentials. So in addition to the Certified Prevention Specialist where we'll be talking today, we offer 2 of their treatment credentials. When we're talking about the certification, ICNRC has prevention domains. There are 6 prevention domains that you all may be familiar with. I want to take a second just to stop. Can we put in the chat if you all are a CPS holder, or do you currently have your CPS credential? Are you working on your CPS credential, or have you never heard of or haven't started your process to getting your CPS?
And Stacey, if you can't see this chat, most people are saying that they're certified. I am seeing a few that have just started the process. But like Carlton said, we have a lot of prevention superstars among us today.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to kind of get an idea to know how in depth on some of these slides to work on. So
but it looks like there's a little bit of a mix as well, Stacey. So you have some folks that are just beginning, some folks that are thinking about it, some folks who've been grandfathered in. So a number of CPS holders, but yes, some folks that are still looking towards it.
Okay. So I'm not going to read through all these domains. It sounds like a lot of you are already aware of these, and you can look at those. These are, really the work, when it comes down to it, the work you do on a daily basis as a prevention specialist working in this field is going to fall under one or more of these domains. The way I want to talk about credentialing today is about building careers. So instead of having a job, somebody gets hired to do this job, either in a coalition or another prevention agency, being one prevention person in an agency of a related field. A lot of times you have somebody enter as a job, they do the job for a while, and then they leave. So what we really want to do is kind of change that custom around that. So really look at people enter as it's a job. Like I said, with me, I didn't know, even when I started, Stephanie asked me to become an employee of the coalition. And even when I started that, I was like, okay, I'll do that for a little while. I'll go back to grad school and then I'll leave. And the more I got into it, because I had somebody who was very supportive as a supervisor, the state of Tennessee, I think, is also very supportive of prevention specialists as a workforce in the state. I think that allowed me to see the potential. So the potential to have a career in prevention long term. So we want people to maybe come in as a job, but then build that professional identity. And the CPS can help with that. So people can gain that credential and say, I'm a certified prevention specialist. That helps them explain what they do to other people. It also helps just legitimize it to themselves and know, like, this is ongoing. I have ongoing continuing education, renewing the credential. It keeps going. It doesn't just stop. The leadership and career growth. So I think the career growth and leadership really go together, because when you have strong leadership, people can grow in their careers. And I think when people grow in their careers, they stay there. So it's not something where it's like, oh, I'm here, I do this job, I go home, I do this job, I come home. They can see that there's steps up for them where they're at. So benefits of workforce development. For organizations, I think higher quality service. And the higher quality service not only makes it easier for other staff, for supervisors, but also for the community that they're serving. Standardized competencies that the certification requires helps for everybody to be on the same page, knowing what each other is doing, knowing, looking at around the country, through the Southeast PTTC, you know, when we are working together, sometimes there's statewide campaigns, sometimes there's nationwide campaigns. And when we have standard competencies, we can make a bigger impact. Stronger grant competitiveness, like Carlton talked about, we need funding in prevention, and having the certification of more of the workforce can help support that. Better onboarding. We'll talk a little bit more about onboarding later, but that is definitely a benefit. Supervision as well. And then improve succession planning. So even if a particular employee comes to work as a prevention specialist in your agency, for one reason or another, they may leave, they may get promoted in the prevention field. You know, we have a lot of people who are doing really great things, moving to statewide or national organizations up from maybe the coalition that they were working with. And that's great. And that's what we want to happen. But when we have, you know, this culture of the workforce as a whole, that can help with succession planning. So when you do have somebody leave, either to stay in the field of prevention or to go to another field, it doesn't impact your work as much. And I know I always say coalition work it's a great stepping stone to a lot of positions. So people get really good skills in a lot of different things working in this field, everything from marketing and communications. And, you know, we have people who are desired, you know, people want to kind of steal our people from our work. So for employees, when we look at the credentialing, career mobility, like I said, moving up within the workforce, increased competence. So, you know, when you have a credential and you've done this training, you've had this supervision, you've been able to work through it, you've passed an exam, you know, that's not an easy exam. That can build confidence because you've set a goal and you've met that. Professional recognition, and then also having the transferable credentials. So if you do move out of state, you know, that's something that you don't have to start all over. You can move to another state with that. So starting with recruitment, when you're looking for these people, start there in your recruitment messaging. Say, we support professional credentialing, we invest in your career, certification or reimbursement is available, paid professional development, structured supervision. So these are things that are going to attract the workforce to your agency. It's also going to make your agency relevant for long-term career seekers. So remember that, you know, the certification process doesn't really start once you have a requirement from your funder that they have to be certified. It starts when you're looking for people, when you're looking who you're going to hire, and putting that recruitment messaging, even in your job postings, is going to help because that's going to attract the applicants that you want. And then once you do hire your staff, supporting them through the certification process. So discussing certification during hiring, setting that expectation from the beginning that this is something you are going to not only require, but support. So it's something that it's just a standard that your agency does every time you hire somebody working. Including certification and professional development plans. So first, make sure you have professional development plans. You know, when we're talking about retaining the workforce, we want them to know that you're there to support them in their career, and that certification is part of that support. Providing exam preparation support. So not only resources, practice exams like that, be supportive when people are studying for the exam, you know, and talking through the organization piece of this. Also, when I'm saying these things that are recommendations for organizations, if you're working in an organization and maybe you've just started, don't be afraid to ask for these things from your organization. If they're not here today and they're not hearing this, ask them, can I have some exam preparation support? Could I have an hour a week to work on studying for the exam? Can I, offering supervision hours is something the organization can do, but if you're working in an agency that doesn't offer, like clear planned supervision hours, ask for that. The organization can also pay for application and exam fees. And then when people do get credentialed, make sure you celebrate that, promote that. I know we have our statewide Partners in Prevention training and networking event that we do. And every year we have everybody, who has gotten their credential in the last year stand up. We read their names, we celebrate them because it's not only good for them personally, and we want to celebrate them, but it's great for our field to have these extra hands working with our plans. So common barriers to credentialing: professionals will report, I don't know where to start, I don't understand the requirements, my supervisor isn't familiar, the application feels overwhelming, and I don't have time. So we really want to address those by making sure they know where to start and understand the requirements. Depending on your certification board, the hope is that that's something that your membership or your member board is doing. At TCB, we really want to provide people from the very beginning. This is where you start. We use the CERTME system. I know some of your all states do as well, that clearly lays out, these are all the steps. You can see your progress on each of your steps in your application online to let you know what the requirements are. How close are you to meeting those? How many training hours have you submitted? My supervisor isn't familiar. If you're a supervisor, become familiar with the certification process. Hopefully you're either going through the certification process yourself or already have it. And then I don't have time. That's a big one that can be helped with support from the organization. So if we're requiring people to do this process to get this credential, make sure that they have time to do it, because if people are asking things of you in your job that you don't have time to do, that's kind of a quick way to get them to find another job. Other ways of removing these barriers: designate a certification mentor, so one person that they can ask. Reviewing applications together, scheduling, like I said, that structured professional development, tracking training hours, encouraging the continuing education. So this is something where we want this process to start immediately, like I said, in recruiting and at the beginning of people's careers. But we also want them to be doing the work. That's how they're going to learn best. So support them getting training, work with them on tying what's they're hearing in their training to what they're doing in the field. That's going to help solidify their understanding of, what their role is. And we want people to not have to wait until they get certification to be able to do this work. This is something that's kind of simultaneous. We require experience hours, a minimum of 1 full-time year, that people are working, because that's how we can ensure that they know how kind of the training that they're getting and the understanding that they're getting works in the real world. So make sure that they're doing that. Connect staff with resources. So for your local or statewide jurisdiction member boards for ICNRC, Southeast PTTC is a wealth of resources. I don't think as many people take as much advantage as they could. I think there's a lot of things that the PTTCs offer. And then other supports in your state. I know I saw Catherine Brunson on here. She is with our Prevention Alliance of Tennessee. There's TATIS in Tennessee. I know other states have agencies that can support with lots of the prevention efforts that you're doing in your locality. So we already talked a little bit about the supervision and how that supports certification. but think about it as supervision becomes professional development. So, make sure that this is something that is structured. I know sometimes it's hard, there's time constraints, but if you have like a support meeting with staff, even if it's 15 minutes, and that's a requirement of their certification, is that they have that supervision, and it's a requirement because that's really important, so that they can learn from the people above them. On the flip side of that, when you have people who have gotten their certification, make sure that you're using those people, even if they may not be like the technical supervisor in the employment role of the person. Have them in that mentor slash supervisor role. A lot of times, I tell people, it was over a decade ago since I took the prevention specialist exam. I don't really remember exactly the details of the things, but we provide people with connections for people who have just taken the exam and just passed the exam, so that they can connect and they can get information and support that way. So make sure that you're giving people the opportunity to help the people coming in behind them, because not only will that help the people coming in behind them, but it will also help that person feel useful and helpful in the role that they're in and want to stay there. Just other resources that your ICNRC member board may provide. I won't read through all those, but make sure you're connecting with your ICNRC certification board in your state. There's a lot that they can do. Everybody does it a little differently, to make sure that they're supporting their state as they need it. But these are all things that they can provide, hopefully, for you. Okay, investing in the future. So professional credentialing helps us to build that strong prevention system, retain talented professionals, increase workforce quality, improve community outcomes. I think those are all things like that Carlton mentioned. When we look big picture, these are the things that we're wanting to do. Where the certified prevention specialist credential comes in, one thing right now that we are working on as a field is legitimizing prevention specialists as an occupation. The legislative liaison with ICNRC is working really hard with hopes to create prevention specialists as a specific occupation class. So the Bureau of Labor and Statistics occupation classifications, these are things that they can do if that was a specific class, like provide wage data, workforce totals, and without that, we have some data indicators that we can't get. And so I think increasing the number of prevention specialists that we have working that are certified increases the field's legitimacy as a whole. And hopefully, ultimately, prevention specialists will be added as an occupation classification, because I think that's something that we all in the field want. I think our communities need it. I think the data that's going to come from that is going to, it just keeps going back and forth. The better we can make our workforce, the better we can make our communities. So kind of what Carlton said, certification is investment in people, and people are our greatest prevention resource. So that's all that I had as far as my presentation today. I don't know. I think we're going to have questions at the end. So save your questions till the end, and I'm going to be happy to answer all of those after the other two presentations.
Absolutely. Stacey, thank you so very, very much for that remarkable presentation. Really, really thoughtful and in-depth, and I'm sure it's helped a lot of folks. The chat has been a buzzing with a lot of comments, and there's a great deal of experiences and perspectives and actual needs and questions regarding this. Everything from state leaders or folks that are helping states think about how they recruit because it's a priority to others who are finding innovative ways to kind of think about inspiring folks to kind of pursue this in and within their organizations, and questions throughout. So we're going to have a robust conversation when we get to Q&A. But what we'd like to do right now is transition to Laura. Laura, if you are ready and able, we're going to go ahead and move forward to thinking about how do we look at supporting the workforce from a state level. And so, Laura, I'm turning the mic to you.
Thank you. And this actually worked out really well, I think, in the lead up from Stacey. So this is going to be really good. As Carlton said, I'm Laura Edwards from Kentucky, and I'm so grateful to be here with you guys across Region 4 in Southeast PTTC. When we talk about prevention, we often talk about programs, data, and outcomes, but none of that can happen without the people. And prevention is a workforce-driven field, and right now, that workforce is strained in ways that we simply cannot ignore. Before launching LDE & Co., as Carlton said, I served with the state of Kentucky as the Workforce Development Program Administrator with the Prevention and Promotion Branch. And that role gave me a very deep understanding of the challenges that we're facing, recruitment gaps, onboarding inconsistencies, and the strain that turnover puts on the prevention system as a whole. Now, through my work with LDE & Co., I'm able to focus on helping organizations build the operational structures that make their work and their people sustainable. And so prevention is built on lots of things: relationships, consistency, community trust, and none of that is possible without a strong, supported workforce. And that workforce is under real strain across the nation. I think it's safe to say we're all feeling that strain. Turnover is high, applicant pools are shallow, and especially in our rural communities, we're struggling to recruit and retain staff. More and more, we're seeing new hires come in with passion and community relationships, but no prevention background. In my previous role with Prevention and Promotion in Kentucky, I was able to see firsthand how these challenges ripple through organizations and communities. And when our workforce is strained, the system is strained. These aren't just HR problems, they're operational problems that affect our ability to deliver consistent, high-quality prevention. One thing that I emphasize through my work is that onboarding is not just orientation. We cannot provide orientation and simply think we are finished. That is just our first retention strategy. When we give people a structured first 90 days, clear expectations, a mentor to help them navigate the field, their confidence typically grows fairly quickly. Cross-training matters. It builds resilience so the whole system doesn't collapse when one person leaves. Structure isn't bureaucracy. Structure is support, and support is what keeps people in prevention. And so one of the interesting things is I'm currently working with a group that hired a new coordinator. She has really strong community ties. She knows everyone, it seems like, but she has no prevention knowledge. We've only been working together for a few weeks, but during that short time, I was able to see that gap. She's motivated, she's eager, but she just doesn't feel like she has any structure. And so that's left her feeling very overwhelmed, and she doesn't know where to start. So one of the first things that we did was put in a simple 30, 60, 90-day plan that connects her with a mentor, and just putting that into place, she's almost immediately found her footing. I can see that her confidence is growing, she's learning the field faster, and she feels supported. And that's really what that is really what intentional onboarding does. It turns potential into staying power. What I can tell you is one of the big things that I experienced when working with the prevention system across the state in Kentucky is that there wasn't a structured onboarding plan. And one of the things that we did was create that. Kentucky certification requires folks to be certified within 3 years of hire at the regional prevention centers. And so because of that, when folks are hired into the system, the training portal and plan is in place to provide several hours of prevention training across the domains within their first 18 months of hire. And so that standard created onboarding platform really set the standard and really helped the field in the certification pathway. And so I cannot stress enough about having this plan, this onboarding plan. Again, you cannot simply have an orientation, give people the information they need, hand them their standard, here's your, a lot of companies use Relias, here's your Relias training, go forth and do. We really have to kind of hold people's hands. We really have to connect them with someone already doing the work so that they are able to get their footing and see other people doing that work. I think it's important to say this clearly. We have to be careful not to create bottlenecks in our system. Certification is important. It is a wonderful thing that we have in our system. It strengthens the field, it sets the standard, but prevention itself is important too. And every single person has a role in prevention. If we hold all of our knowledge until someone earns their CPS, we slow down the work and unintentionally gatekeep a profession that desperately needs new talent. We can honor certification and still share knowledge generously. Prevention grows when we teach, mentor, and support people early on, not when we wait for them to check every box. As I close, I want to leave you with this. Prevention is a profession, and it's also a shared responsibility. The workforce challenges we're facing are real, but they're not insurmountable. When we build structure into our systems that include clear roles, strong onboarding, mentorship, and cross-training, we create environments where people can grow, thrive, and stay. Prevention needs people, and every single person has a role. We grow the workforce by sharing knowledge generously, supporting new professionals early, and treating development as part of the job, not a reward for surviving it. Through my work with LDE & Co., I see every day that structure is not bureaucracy. I said this earlier, structure is support, and support is what keeps people in prevention. If we commit to building the bench together, we strengthen not just our organizations, but the communities we serve. Thank you all very much. And as we've said already, questions will be answered at the end.
Laura, phenomenal presentation. Thank you so much for setting us up for the remainder of our conversation that we're going to have today. The questions that you prompt really challenge us, right? I put in the chat, how do we honor certification but protect against gatekeeping? You brought up a really key point there, and I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have afterwards. With that, I'm going to introduce someone who is really an extraordinary leader that I've grown to respect in tremendous ways, making a great deal of impact, not only in the state, but even nationally. Seyram Selase, the floor is now yours, my friend. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Good morning or good afternoon to everyone out there. I first of all want to thank the Southeast PTTC for this opportunity. Thank you, Carlton, for the years of not just being a mentor, but being an example of what one can be in this field. I'm so very honored to share this platform also with other prevention professionals. As Carlton also said, you guys are superstars, and I've always believed in the concept of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and that's who we are, guys. That's exactly who we are. And again, to also Stacey and Laura, thank you guys for setting up exactly where I'm going and heading next, which is that retention part of us as prevention professionals, as well as the retention of the efforts that we do in our communities, right? One thing that we've learned over time, especially when working with a lot of our young people, it's unfortunate sometimes that we start programs, but then don't have that sustainability. And as I talk through my presentation, that's what I really want you guys to understand, how we've also crafted not only retaining prevention professionals, but retaining those efforts that we do in the community to where they have that longevity and sustainability. So again, my name is Seyram Selase. I'm the executive director here at ASAP. I've been in the prevention field for 13 years as an executive director, and then 20 years overall as a prevention professional. I am a CPS. I do have my certified prevention specialist credential, as well as certified prevention manager credential as well. But all those things are just titles. What it really means is that I care about people and the work that we do. So the first thing I want you guys to think about in how we approach retaining prevention professionals at ASAP, and just some best practices that you guys can hopefully implement too, is number one, hire character before competency. Let me say that again, hire character before competency, right? You can teach people prevention, but you can't teach purpose. And that's what I've learned over these past 20 years. When getting someone as a new staff member at ASAP, I can teach prevention all day. I have the credentials and all that good stuff, but I can't teach purpose. So even what we do presently, before we hire anyone, they have to do a PowerPoint presentation, right? They come into our office and we have a panel or hiring committee, and they actually do a presentation to say, hey, this is what we feel as an individual, as a potential employee, that we can bring to ASAP. That does multiple things, you guys. Number one, it lets you know that they've researched your agency. Number two, it already lets you know what their burning desire is. Like, why do you even want to be in this field, as we call it? Like, what's your why, as has been commonly said? And then number three, you already get to see their presentation skills, right? We as prevention professionals are always out in the community doing multiple presentations. So it's very important for us to already have at least a gauge on what that would look like. When we're hiring people and working to retain those people, we look for people with curiosity, communication skills, servant leadership, adaptability, someone who genuinely wants to help people. But here's another key provision I would like to add: humility. If you don't have humility in this work, you're not going to be someone that we retain long-term, or that we want to retain long-term anyway, right? You have to have those professionals that have that humility when it comes down to this work. The next thing I want to talk about, what we do with our prevention professionals, we give people ownership, not just tasks. One reason people stay is because they don't feel like employees, they feel like builders, you guys. And that's what we do at ASAP, and that we recommend other agencies do in our state and around the country. Make those employees builders. That way they take ownership, and many times they don't even want to leave the project. So notice, I haven't even got into the point about money just yet, but I'll talk about that a little later. But again, when people have that ownership and not just tasks, they become more ingrained into your system and into the community and the very, very important work that we do. So how does that look from a practical standpoint? I am, of course, the executive director. We have staff meetings like any other staff. However, I let each individual on my staff run a staff meeting. Now, of course, I do the majority of them, and if there are very important things that we need to get done, I handle that. But no, each and every staff person at my agency, they run a staff meeting. I want them to already be thinking about what it means to be a leader in the prevention field, what it means to look like or have to figure out different aspects of what we're working on to make sure that our prevention efforts are effective. So again, that's number one practical thing. Everybody leads a staff meeting. The next thing, presentations. So we do various presentations throughout the community, as I already mentioned, but one of the most coveted presentations that we do are college scholarships, right? This past year, we were able to award over 7 $1,000 scholarships to local students based upon various essays and things that they did regarding prevention. So with that, we are now at a place where those individuals, those staff members are actually doing the work and taking the lead on that. I could be the one to go into these presentations and saying, hey, I'm the ED and this, that, and the other. But no, my staff members, they go out and that brings more of that ownership. They do conference planning. Another thing, why we retain so many prevention professionals on our staff is that we also allow them, I do as executive director, to handle media interviews. Guys, being in the prevention field sometimes comes with a lot of media attention, but you don't have to be that as an executive director. The only person that does it, it doesn't really show continuity. And really, it doesn't show, in my personal opinion, that you really trust the staff that you're raising and that you're developing. So that's something else that we do. And then last but not least, I give my staff opportunities to, when we have those big prevention victories and get to certain levels, as we would say, they are coming along with me. So what that looks like, just a couple of weeks ago, you guys, we developed a program at ASAP called the Faith-Based Support Specialist Program. That program simply seeks to bridge the gap between the mental health field and the faith community. I was on a meeting here locally in Alabama one time, and I was asking, hey, what are we actively doing with our faith community? I mean, I would say we're the buckle of the Bible Belt in the South, right? I said, what are we doing with our faith communities? And there were crickets on that particular Zoom. And so working with the Alabama Department of Mental Health, who has been such an amazing partner, and another organization called the Foundation for Opioid Response Efforts, we started to train faith leaders to be able to effectively respond to the issues of substance misuse in their communities. And it was dynamic. But again, we started taking steps, doing these particular trainings with our faith leaders throughout the state of Alabama. We received funding to take it nationwide. So we went to New York, we went to DC, we went to Boston most recently. And all of these things culminated, you guys, until a couple of weeks ago. And we literally presented this training at the Harvard Divinity School, right? The Harvard Divinity School. So going back to taking ownership, I could have done the training all by myself, but no, I took at least 4 other staff members with us, and they have specific things that they do on these presentations as well. So again, when staff members, prevention professionals get those type of opportunities, their pride really shoots up, right? They see that the work of their communities, again, this was our 22nd conference. So those who started at conference number 1 all the way to the 22nd, they had a different viewpoint of what it looks like to really dig deep, take ownership of something in prevention, and then having that type of impact. So again, all of you prevention professionals, the superstars, as Carlton said, imagine then what else you guys can do in the prevention field, retaining those employees and giving them opportunities that they never may have ever dreamt. The next thing I want to talk about is you have to create a culture of continuous innovation, right? So we at ASAP, we believe in creation, activation, and iteration, right? First, we create the program, then we activate it, and then we iterate it over time. And then, of course, we know with our SPIF minds, strategic prevention framework, we always evaluate all of our efforts in order to get better anyway. But what does that look like? A culture of innovation, and why that makes prevention professionals want to stay there at your organization. So at ASAP, we don't ask what's next. We ask, how do we make this better? So again, from a faith-based support specialist training, if we're implementing Mendez Too Good for Drugs, the Why Try program, you name it, ASAP is always trying to figure out how to make it better. So National Prescription Drug Take Back Day, which many of us participate in. At first, we were doing, pretty good, collecting 50 pounds there, 60 pounds. At this point, you guys, we now collect per year over 1,000 pounds of unused and expired prescription drugs during National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. Well, how does that happen? We continuously create that culture of innovation. One of the last things that we did was Alabama. We're not as lucky as some of you all states, so we still don't have gambling, right? So we said, but people go across to Georgia, Mississippi, all over Florida, and they're going to buy those lottery tickets. So we told our community members, hey, if you bring in your unused and expired prescription drugs, you will have an opportunity to get this raffle ticket and win a massive flat screen TV, right? So those type of innovative ways ended up increasing our numbers. But again, those ideas came from the innovation that happens when we have our staff meetings and are talking with each other and learning. So again, the creation, the activation, and then we iterate. Next thing, we have comic books that we developed. So everyone knows the Avengers, right? This wonderful group of people, Spider-Man, Thor, Iron Man, you name it. All of those wonderful superheroes that are saving the Marvel comic universe. Well, we created through the innovation, the ASAP Prevenger, right? ASAP being our agency's name, but Prevenger. And so we created those comic books. That was from another staff member. And now we're to like number 4 on that series of comic books that we give to local youth, as well as I said, with the national programming that we're doing, we take those around the country. But imagine that staff member who has put in so much work and had to find the illustrator and create the stories. That type of ownership and that type of innovation makes people want to stay at your agency. It makes them not want to leave because, again, where else can they do that at certain other places? So we always recommend innovation. We also created a program called VAB, which I'll talk about a little later, but our social media becomes prevention. The Harvard, as I already spoke about, becomes a national platform. But again, working through and creating a culture of continuous innovation is what will retain those employees. So if I had to talk a little bit about the money for a second, and we know that agencies like ours, we're all small nonprofits and we have limited budgets. But I've always put this belief in my staff that if you do the work, the money will come. If you do the work, the money will come. Many of our programs, you guys, believe it or not, started as just responses to our assessments that are in the community that sometimes block grant funding can assist with, that sometimes SPIF funding couldn't assist with. But once we did the work and responded to those real community needs, the money just showed up, whether that was through corporate sponsorship grants or through other foundations that we heard about that actually would want to do the work. It's once people see you actually believing and working towards that immediate need that's in your community and that your coalition has identified, then the money comes. And so thankfully, I haven't had over my 13 years of experience to lay off anyone or just fire anyone just because we didn't have the money. We have lost people just through simple attrition. So that has always worked out for us. But again, I truly believe if you do the work, the money will come. The next point I want to make is think bigger than your community, right? With our prevention professionals and our local coalitions, we tell them we have to think bigger than our community. And if you think about it, when we first started off at ASAP, we technically are required to service only 6 rural Alabama communities, right? But now fast forward, we're doing national programming. And am I good on time, guys? Carlton? Okay. So now we're doing national programs based upon thinking bigger than the community. I've learned something over time. If your vision is only as big as your county, your staff will eventually outgrow it, right? And that's what we want. We want to develop those leaders that are outgrowing even just what we see in our few square miles of a county, right? And so what does that look like? Thinking bigger than our community. Presently, you all, and let me take a step back. Again, I am a CPS, certified prevention specialist, not certified substance misuse prevention specialist, but certified prevention specialist. And I love that Stacey was talking earlier about that wonderful test. Like that test was no joke, you guys. And I took it over 10 or so years ago as well. But with that, being a certified prevention specialist, and I spoke about responding to the needs of your community, we could not put our heads in the sand, you all, when 2020 happened, not just talking about the pandemic and the opioid epidemic, but also what we saw was the #1 leading cause of the killer of our young people is gun violence, or as we call it, gun misuse. And when you look at that in your community, and our coalition started to identify that issue, we found that most of the time when you have gun misuse, substance misuse is typically involved. A robbery gone bad, someone trying to get dope, or they're inebriated and then they end up killing someone, or even the suicides that we see in our communities. The majority of those are used or have gun misuse involved in those situations. So we said we needed to respond to that, right? Thinking bigger than the community and what we're typically told that we should see. We see what's happening every day. So what did that lead to? Talking with my staff members and really pushing them to think, dig deep. We came up with Barbers and Ballers Against Bullets, you guys. Barbers Against Bullets simply seeks to use the influence of barbers, who a lot of these young people see on a consistent basis, to be community change agents. The same with the ballers. The ballers are the people who are in the NFL and NBA and MLB that our young people want to be like. We started to solicit the support in our prevention efforts of Major League football, baseball players, and NBA players. And that has all the way led to, fast forward, you guys, we are now in a conversation with the Jordan brand. And yes, I am talking about Michael Jordan, trying to encourage them to come up with a sneaker that deals with gun misuse and substance misuse. Now, we don't know where this is going to go, but just to be in the conversation, that is thinking bigger than just our own local community, because again, throughout the nation, gun misuse is the #1 killer of our children. But again, it's oftentimes tied with substance misuse. So again, that type of innovation and thinking bigger is permeating through the culture in our agency and throughout our coalitions. And that is what continues to help retain people. I want to talk about that. That also led to something else that we just a week ago were able to do. When talking about being innovative and asking and challenging my staff members all the time, again, to be those ordinary people doing extraordinary things, we came up with a competition, you all. When you think about Disney World, and when kids and young people go to Disney World for free, many times it's like through a Make-A-Wish Foundation and someone, a kid that is terminally ill. Well, our staff members came up with an idea of, well, since gun misuse and substance misuse has been so prevalent and they're inextricably linked, why not send our young people and a family to Disney World for coming up with the PSA that can change what's going on in our communities? And guys, that particular competition went completely crazy, as we would say, and the young people loved it. We had so many different families participating. So one of the families literally just came back, one of the winning families. Now, again, think about what type of culture that creates at your agency and trying to retain employees, and many of them saying, hey, we wish we could participate, but it still more so warms our heart to see the community stepping up in a major way and having a place like Disney World to think about and talk about to combat the substance misuse and gun misuse issues that we see in our community. I know we can talk about later, there have been challenges, right? There are also victories, but I'll leave that during the portion where Carlton said he wanted to cover that. But long story short, in closing, I would just simply say the greatest investment you'll ever make in prevention isn't just another grant or another program. It's helping someone discover that prevention isn't just about what they do, it's also about who they actually are. When people find purpose, they don't simply stay in the workforce, they become the future of it. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to the questions.
Seyram, brother, thank you so much. Extraordinary presentation, excellently spoken to with respect to the great work that your folks have been doing out there in your community, which has a great deal to do with the leadership that you bring to it. I want to underscore that. My friend, you shared a number of things. I think the one of the most fascinating one is what I might refer to as your Shark Tank approach to having folks to recruitment. Getting them in front of you and having to do presentations. I love that, and that seemed to resonate a great deal in the chat as well. A lot of folks, I think, have gone through that as well and utilize and employ that. I love what you said about not kind of focusing on the mission, or rather on the money, but rather focus on doing the work. Our great friend Trent Coffey, who I think is still here and on it, offered, don't allow the money to chase the mission, allow the mission to chase the money, or something to that effect. Trent, you can come off mute and kind of correct me if I said that improperly, but I love what you have to say. extraordinary work that you guys are doing out there. And Seyram, thank you so much. This is the opportunity that I've been wanting to get to. You've heard from three remarkable leaders here in our region and around our country, offer what I believe are huge gems. As I mentioned, all of you are superstars. I see a number of you here. I'd love for you all to come on screen if you can, if you feel up to it. We can come off mute, but I want to get started in a bit of a conversation, a Q&A, if you will. We're going to begin this by talking and sharing some thoughts. So, Laura, I'm going to come to you first. You had the opportunity to look at workforce development from a statewide perspective. Looking back on your experience, what do you believe has been the single most effective investment Kentucky has made in strengthening its prevention workforce? And if other states wanted to kind of replicate that, what would you advise them to do?
Sure, thanks, Carlton. And I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I think looking back over my experience while I was at the state, I would say the single most effective investment that we made was strengthening in the prevention workforce, was building consistent statewide infrastructure for onboarding and professional development. Serving as the workforce development program admin, we saw very clearly that the workforce wasn't always struggling because people lacked passion. They were struggling because people lacked structure. As much as folks would want to say they don't like structure when it comes to things like onboarding and learning a new role, if you just throw people out, they have no idea where to start. And so we were able to create some shared tools through our learning management system, having those statewide training pathways, and clear expectations where staff knew what they needed to complete in their first 30, 60, 90 days, all the way up through their first 18 months of hire. Our communities have access to that. I, no longer a state employee, still have access to that for training to continue the CPS process, either for an initial certification or a recertification process. And that kind of infrastructure just doesn't help new hires, as we've seen. It really stabilizes the system. I would say if another state wanted to start today or tomorrow, I would say start simple. Build a statewide onboarding framework. You don't have to have a complicated manual. You just need a clear, consistent structure that every organization or every person coming in has the ability to access. I think the other thing with that is accessible professional development. There are so many trainings out there that are available. We can get any training we want from the PTTCs across the nation, along with other groups that provide trainings. But it's really hard for someone new coming into the system to say, what training do I need?
I love it.
And the last thing I'll say, and I've said it, and we've heard it throughout the conversation today, when we invest in structure, we're really investing in the people. And remember that people are what make prevention possible. And so we have to invest in that.
Laura, thank you very much for that. I want to bring you all into this conversation. I know that there were some questions that were posted in the chat earlier as folks were delivering their presentations, or some comments. Some of you have some real experience around some of these ideas. I'd love for anybody to raise their hand if they want to come off mute and kind of share that. Love to see your face and hear your voice with respect to it. As you are kind of contemplating and thinking about this, Chisholm or Amber, any questions that you've seen in the chat that we can bring up right now? I see a hand. Chat. What's happening, man?
Hey,
come
Carlton.
off mute, my friend. And
Yeah.
yes, please. Floor is
Okay,
yours.
it's great to be in the space with y'all and to see you, friend. Yeah, so my question is, I'm in Kansas, and Kansas has probably in the past 15 years not valued credentialing as much, it seemed. It's not a expectation or requirement for professionals working in block granted positions as examples in other states. And so there's not a lot of in the state of Kansas, if you're planning to stay and work in Kansas, there's not a lot of incentive to go ahead and get credentialed. So the state has asked us from time to time, kind of for our thoughts on it. They've sought some public opinion and haven't gotten a lot of response. A lot of people asking to be credentialed. Our numbers are dwindling in the state, especially because there aren't a lot of people that are continuing. And our membership kind of review board has been transitioned to Oklahoma. So Oklahoma's board reviews our membership applications, which is a little bit different too. So I'm a contractor working for the state's single state authority, and supporting our NPN as much as I can, and just kind of wanted to get thoughts, opinions, recommendations on how can we encourage the state to support that more and to support the infrastructure.
Chad, thank you so much. And thank you again for the compassionate leadership that you bring to your state. It is impacting a number of communities and a number of folks, not just in your state, but across the country. Appreciate you being here. Stacey, I think that he teed that one up for you, my friend. So
the first thing, the first thing that comes to mind with what you said is your numbers are dwindling. So that, like I talked about, certification supports increased numbers for all those reasons I said. If you have contacts with the state, the people who maybe could start to require and grant contracts, that in Tennessee, we only require one prevention specialist per agency that has a DSS grant. But the state highly encourages every staff member to be on their way or getting credentialed. I think if you showed them the link between more people being required to be credentialed and more people staying in their roles, that might be, kind of an incentive for the state to start having some sort of requirement for it. Because, if your numbers are dwindling and you don't have, I think all of us who have presented, and everybody realizes that the people are the prevention. And if you don't have that, you're not going to get very far. And if the state wants outcomes from the dollars that they're sending, they need to really realize that there might be a correlation between we are not requiring CPS, therefore kind of all of those professional career ladder supports, things like that are kind of not prioritized. Thus, people are moving to other careers. Maybe that's something that you can do. That's just kind of what comes to me offhand. Does that make sense? And I know sometimes like it's it may be like, oh, that makes sense, but the same people will have different ideas and stuff. But I mean, to kind of, relate it to their dollars, like that's usually the easiest way with people, to say this will help your dollars be more effective for us to have more people.
One of the things that was a recurring theme throughout all the presentations is this idea that I wrote down around intentionality with our recruitment efforts, right? Like it's not about a whosoever will let them come approach, right? We've been doing that. We've tried that. But rather it's being strategic, being thoughtful, and being very intentional about the recruitment of folks into this field, even acknowledging kind of like making sure someone wrote in the chat, making sure that there's a fit between the folks as they're coming in. And so a number of those things kind of come in. Trent Coffee, I see your hand up, my friend. Come off, if you can come on screen and come off mute, please go ahead. Hey, Trent.
Wait. Nobody can hear me?
We can hear you, sir. Oh, now we can. You put yourself. There you go. Go for it, brother. Okay. Trent, we're going to come back to you. We're going to come back to you. I saw.
I think I got it now.
Okay. Okay. Go.
Okay, Chad, I'm sorry.
You got
This
it.
is pre-Stacey. I was on the first certification board of our Tennessee certification board, and we actually about five of our coalitions got together and wanted to build a credentialing for it. So we went to ICNRC and showed we gave the evidence to them on how this could enhance our profession. Not only did it help enhance our profession, it helped our pay. It helped raise the salary cap on it, different things like that. And then we had to kind of set up an account. And then Stan was the very first one to put $500 into the account to get a separate account started for it. And then the other coalitions came along. And then we evolved from there, getting our ICNRC process going, then getting our testing going, all that stuff. But it was a group of coalitions that started that sold it to the state, that the state then, in all of our contracts, we have to have a CPS on staff to do that. So just stay diligent and then work at it, get you some partners, and show the state that this is everybody thinks you have to take a vow of poverty if you work for a nonprofit, but you don't. So it's a profession. So.
I love it. Thank you, Trent. And thank you again for the leadership that you've been providing over the many years. Seyram, I'm going to come to you. You've been leading this work kind of every day at the community level. When you're interviewing someone or mentoring a new staff member, what qualities do you look for that tell you, you know what, this person can become an outstanding prevention professional, even if they don't yet have the years of prevention experience? I think it was Laura that talked about the fact that you sometimes have a lot of folks that want to be part of this, and they have great connections, and they may be kind of really perfectly well suited or positioned, but they don't have the prevention background that really we all know is required to do this work well. What have been your thoughts around that, sir?
Yeah, so great question. For me, as I mentioned before, I look at curiosity, your communication skills. Are you a servant leader? Are you adaptable? Are you someone who genuinely wants to help people, as well as that humility? Like, that's a huge thing. But if you combine all of that together, you guys, and especially when working in this field, I really want to know your story. Like, why did you even get in prevention? And for me, I mean, it was the issue that I saw growing up with a family member. And then I tell that story even when I initially was hired 13 years ago and before becoming ED. But that was my story. But it's really comes down to, like, what is their why? I don't really care about your background. I mean, I've hired people who have had degrees in biology. I've had people who have had degrees in sports management. But again, all of those things actually compile to make a prevention specialist special, right? We say specialist, but these are special individuals because they're taking on true and arduous work that really ought to happen in our community. So underneath all of those other wonderful words, it's about their why. And if I could add one other thing, because I want to make sure I get this all, to those of you guys who are out there who are EDs, executive directors, or CEOs of your organizations, also, please, with employee retention, and this is what I tell those people that I finally hire, Carlton, give them bonuses, right? A quarterly bonus goes a long way. I don't care if it's $25, $50, and that really creates an amazing incentive for your prevention professionals, right? Because they know if they mess up, they may not get that bonus, or their bonus will be significantly lower. So come up with a bonus structure. Even if it's something very small, you should do that. The next thing, I reward my employees with time off. We put in a lot of work, and we know how burnout can be in the prevention field. So especially around a holiday, for example, we just celebrated America's 250th. I gave my employees as a whole extra time off because they've been doing such an amazing job. So there's something else basic that you can do. And my last thing, and this may shock some people, I always had in my mind, even when I first started, that as many years I had been working in the nonprofit world, there was no retirement structure for standalone nonprofits like ours. Well, we establish that, right? And we do up to a 5% match for our employees. So these are practical things, no different than a corporate job or whatever, that we should be doing for our people who, to me, go above and beyond a lot of times what is required. So those are some practical things and how we also retain people.
Seyram, thank you, man. As always, brother, your innovation, your innovative approach to these matters that are very, very practical on the ground is kind of born out of the real experiences that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But bringing them to light on this platform, I think, means a great, great deal. I'm watching my brother Salvador. My man is I think he's in full appreciation for what it is that you're offering here with respect to that. So thank you so much for that. I also want to thank our friends Kelly and Mitchell, I believe, who have been offering a good number of resources in the chat. Please, y'all take advantage. Thank you for sharing those resources as well for our attendees. Truly appreciate it. There are a number of questions that I've seen, some very practical questions, but the chat is moving too fast for me to capture them. Either Chisholm or Angelica or Amber, are you seeing any questions that we can bring to light right now?
Yeah, someone just wants to know more information about providing a match for employees.
Providing a what?
A match, a retirement match for employees that
Okay.
Seyram mentioned.
All right. Seyram, you got any thoughts on that? And Trent, I see your hand, unless that's from the last time.
Yeah, just real quick, you guys. I would talk to any type of local HR company. They can help you with that. Like, do your research, find a good HR company that can assist you with establishing that for your employees.
Perfect. I think, you know what, I could take this on, but I truly am appreciative of everyone here. I really want to thank our presenters. I want to thank Laura. I want to thank Stacey. I want to thank Seyram for a wonderful start to our workforce development series, Prevention Forward, Strengthening Region 4 Workforce for Impact, Innovation, and Sustainability. This is the first of 3 sessions. I believe Angelica will share with you when the other 2 sessions are, but would you all, with respect to your emojis or whatever you want to do, can we just show our appreciation to Stacey and Laura and Seyram for the wonderful offering that they provided to us today. Thank you so much, guys, for everything you did. Angelica, I'm turning it over to you.